wonderful to see some new ones. And we are very privileged to have Mr. Preston Frank here tonight. He comes from a long, long line of not just cowboys, but the real cowboys. And they've left a great legacy for us, and he is going to share that legacy with us tonight. So, Preston, thank you.
Thank you. Well, my name is Preston Frank, and I'm the son of Floyd Frank and the grandson of Cosied Frank. These were people in my life that taught me about riding horses and training horses and roping calves and knowing how to help take care of a mama cow and help her to have a baby calf if she's having problems, to see to it that a rancher would have a large calf crop. Before oil was found down in southeast Texas, the ranchers only had certain ways of having a cash flow in order to take care of their overhead. And one of the main things was the carrying of cattle. So if you had 100 head of cattle, you wanted 100 baby calves, or close to 100% as you possibly could, because that was going to determine what the owner of that land would do with his monies in order to be able to keep his ranch afloat. So in the first part of my grandfather's life, he worked for the McFaddens. And my father was born on the McFadden Ranch in 1918. And they stayed there with the McFaddens until 1921. And my grandfather had a chance to meet Mr. Elmer Boyt, and they kind of hit it off. And he decided he'd go to work for Mr. Elmer. So the main ranch for the Boyt family was there on Boyt Road there in Cheek. And this is where my dad lived, and up until the third grade, he went to school there in Cheek. And his dad was the kind of guy that loved horses. He met a rancher down in Katy that had 100 head of horses that he needed to get rid of and do some things with. So my grandfather and his brothers went to Katy and drove 100 head of horses from Katy all the way to Crosby, where they broke those horses one for one and drove 50 head back to Katy. At that particular time, you didn't have these duty bugs and rice trucks and stuff like this to get the rice out the field, so some of the ranchers was raising rice. So some of those horses was used to bring the rice out of the fields on wagons that he had broke like that in order to be able to make extra money other than just what he was making now with the Boyt family. Other things, my dad had a chance to meet Mr. Charlie Harmon down here in Hancomer from living there, and when they moved up to Cottonwood, he met Mr. Harmon, and my dad was good with his hands. He liked messing around with ropes and whips and quirts and making things and repairing his saddles and all. So Mr. Harmon taught my dad how to repair saddles and how to actually make a saddle. And when he was a kid, this is what he would do is plait whips, and he had to make their own ropes. So you didn't have these ropes that you can go and get like from Sam Weston store or Cavender's and places like this. You had to actually make your own ropes. And on those trips where they would go places and go to rodeos, that's the way my dad made extra money. He would make whips and sell whips and ropes and bridles and quirts and things like this. That were just things that you had to do on your own out in the middle of nowhere like this, because back during the Great Depression, was no money in circulation. And the people that really did bad were those that lived in the cities. People that lived out in the country was able to eat the deer and the wild hogs and the different things that was raised right around, that grew right around on the natural. So you didn't have, from my understanding and being around my daddy and Mr. Cecil and those guys like that, I didn't experience discrimination. If you was good at what you did, that's how you got the job, and that's how you kept the job. It wasn't about race and color. It was about ability, and the ability to help that man that owned that ranch pay for the overhead. When the Spaniards gave land grants out, they didn't have much of a choice of employees. From what the McFaddens are telling me and my father-in-law, when they first got that Spanish land grant, the only people that they had living in Beaumont was black people and Indians in 1831. So they really didn't trust the Indians, and they sided with the black people. And this is how you had so many black people knowing about how to deal with the animals. Because this was in 1831, this was 30 years before slavery had ended. And those people that got a chance to still stay on the ranches or stay on the plantations or whatever, they had to have a fairly decent relationship with the Caucasian people that received the Spanish land grants and the people that were in charge in those areas like that. So I was blessed to have a father that he was raised with Mr. Randolph and Mr. Owen. My grandfather was around the same age with Mr. Elmer and all, and Mr. Cecil and my daddy and all. They were all around the same ages. My dad just passed 4 years ago, and he was 3 months from being 103 years old. I'll be 80 in November, and when I was a kid coming up and all, I followed my daddy everywhere. I've never known him to have a job after he left the ranches, and he became a furniture upholsterer. And he learned how to reupholster furniture and refinish furniture and all. And in 1953, he received a contract to redo all the furniture in Hotel Galvez in Galveston. He lived in the hotel and came home on weekends, and it took him a year to refurbish all that furniture in Hotel Galvez. But he taught me and my two brothers that trade, and this is how we made a living. The things that I learned about how people that had to have a trade of some kind, they had to know how to be handy, had to know how to do things. And the way that I was raised, and I've always worked for myself. I've never had a public job, and I would always follow my daddy everywhere. So that's how I got to know Lloyd and all of his brothers, and Lil Pat Boyt, and these were guys that inherited Mr. Cecil's and Mr. Elmer's property and all. I saw them coming in because I think Lloyd is about 6 years older than I am, but Don, his younger brother, and Arthur and Lamar and all, their mother only had boys. So that was the only boys in the family, mainly because Mr. Randolph and Mr. Owen only had girls. So I got a chance to know these people, and what I like about what I've learned and how it has helped me in politics, I don't know if you all know of the Wingate family, Hal Wingate, and the Burrows. These were people that received large tracts of land in that area. And Mr. Hal Wingate inspired me to get involved in the politics. And he was on the school board, and I got to know him really well, and he would discuss different things with me. And in 1986, about 40 years ago, I ran for county commissioner, and I was the first black person to run for a county government office as a Republican. The wealthiest people in Jefferson County gave to my campaign. Gus McFadden and Gene McFadden and Vic Rogers, they financed my campaign, which was over $250,000. And Gus and Gene McFadden were my campaign managers and treasurers. I had a chance to be appointed to Leadership Texas by George Bush. I helped him run for office as a governor and introduced him to Gus and Gene McFadden out at Plum-Merely Ranch. And at a fundraiser that Vic Rogers had put on, I had a chance to meet George Bush, and I was telling him about knowing the McFaddens like I did, and he told me, he said, listen, if you can get me to meet with these people, I'll come down here. And he said, get with my scheduling committee, and I did. And he came down. In an hour and a half one night, we raised $65,000 for George Bush, and he became governor. He appointed me to Leadership Texas, and for 8 years, my job with a group of people from my congressional district, we had to make sure all of the campaign promises that George Bush made to his constituents were kept. So I had a chance to get to meet just about all of the wealthiest people in the state of Texas. This has inspired me to want to keep this legacy alive. If I had a grandfather or a father like Elmer Boyt or Mr. McFadden, what I did for my daddy, I buried him there on the place. I got him inducted into the Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame up in Fort Worth with John Wayne and Roy Rogers and Dale Evans and Harry Belafonte and Sammy Davis Jr. and all these people. But he's recognized. If you Google up Floyd Frank in Beaumont, Texas, you can read all about his life. I think this should have been done for Mr. Elmer, because the story I hear about his life, he was saying that he was just a cowboy, didn't own anything, and wound up owning over 100,000 acres of land in 4 different counties. The trail drive that my dad was on, where they drove 10,000 head of cattle from Devers all the way up to Winnie to Boyt Ranch and stayed overnight there, and then drove them all into Port Bolivar. Had to cross that intercoastal canal, and Lloyd was narrating that interview where they was crossing that intercoastal canal, and all the different cowboys that was on that ride at the time, and how all of that went on. Things like that, the stories I was told about when the state of Texas required all of the ranchers to dip their cattle. Every 30 days, you had to dip your cattle to get rid of all of the parasites that cattle would carry. And Mr. Cecil had, and Mr. Boyd had so many cattle, at the end of the 30 days, they wasn't through with the herd. For 7 years, this went on, just one day after the next, seeing to it those cattle were dipped. So you really didn't have a chance to do anything else but be a cowboy. And the people that owned the ranches didn't do that work, because when after the Civil War, there were over 2 million cattle running loose in the state of Texas. And the Buffalo Soldiers, after the war, were the ones that gathered the cattle, and they would drive cattle all the way down into Mexico. You could get $5 a head for a steer in Mexico. And if you drove them down the Old Spanish Trail, because the Old Spanish Trail ran from Mexico all the way into New Orleans, you can get $12 for a steer. So this is where James Taylor White there and Winnie, he's known as being having the oldest ranch in the state of Texas. they would drive those cattle from Winnie all the way into New Orleans and get $12 a head for them. And that was a story about a incident that happened there at Taylor's Bow, where there was a family by the name of Yoakum that had like a boarding house, and when the guys would stay overnight there, they would kill those guys and throw them off in the bow for the alligators to eat. And it wasn't for Taylor White's drovers and them. They was the one that solved that case with the Texas Rangers in order to catch those the Yoakum family.
Wow.
But this happened right down in here in the Winnie area. So it's a lot of history down in here, and it needs to be told. Most people are dying out that know of these things or have reference to some of that. But this is what I've been doing. I started a museum for my father. I have records that I've kept throughout the years. I never left from down here. A lot of people left from here and moved up to California, Chicago, and different areas like this. But I love Southeast Texas. I like this area. You know, I've made a good living here. 85% of my business is white trade. I do a lot of hospitals and restaurants and church pews. And if you've ever eaten at Floyd Seafood Restaurant, all of that work in there, that's all my work. The Baptist Hospital, St. Mark's Episcopal Church downtown, all that antique pews and all that stuff in there, that's a lot of my work. So, but anyway, I don't know how long I need to go on with this, but I can go on and on and on. I've talked with the professor at the University of Houston. In November, I have to do this same type of a thing for the University of Houston, because this professor wrote a book on sawgrass cowboys in Southeast Texas and didn't even know about the Boyts and the Whites and all the people down in here. Now he have to rewrite that book.
Big time, yeah. He didn't know about Boyt Ranch.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Are you saying you built the furniture?
Yes, I
What was the
reupholstered.
author's name of the book, Preston? The author of the book?
I just forget the name of the professor. I wanted to bring the book and I forgot it. But that particular book, now in June, the 21st of June of this year, I gave a Cheek family reunion out at the ranch. So all of the families that live out there in Cheek are all from St. Landry Parish, around Opelousas area. Just about everybody that lives in Cheek is kin to each other. And that community is about 150 years old or older. And all of the people that actually bought down in there came from Louisiana. They went to work for the Boyts and the Wingates and the clubs and all of the folk that own land down in there like that. So when I gave this family reunion, I invited everybody. You have Desertales, you have Ledays. I don't know if you heard Elton Leday. He was a cowboy that was very good friends with James Taylor White, and he did a lot of things for Elton Leday. But Elton Leday and his family, they gave rodeos there in Cheek. L.D. Fontenot was another landowner that gave rodeos there in Cheek years ago. The Bassett family, along with my dad. So, and with this Bill Pickett rodeo, so now Lou Besson is a guy that loved rodeos and all, that lived in Golden, Colorado. He bought the rights from the Bill Pickett family to commemorate Bill Pickett, because he is the one that invented the steer dogging event. And what they're doing is, you know, most cowboys, black or white, was broke and uneducated. They didn't go to college. They didn't have trades, and until the oil was found in 1901, this was a minimum wage job. So you didn't have that many white people wanting to do that ranch work and stuff like this. So this is why you had so many minorities dealing with the ranch work like that. Bill Pickett got guys like Slugger and Elton Leday and a lot of different guys. And these guys were little britches cowboys that my dad taught when they were just little children, when they was riding Shetland ponies and goats and sheep and stuff like this. But he was the only one that gave back to the Rodeo Association. Now this Saltgrass Rodeo Association, which was formed down in here by Osa Jackson. Osa Jackson and the different guys that live around his ranch, they started this Saltgrass Rodeo Association. But the oldest black rodeo association in Jefferson County was the TRCA, the Texas Rodeo Cowboys Association. And guys like I wished I had a guy here. What he does is he keep up with the names of all of the deceased black cowboys, and he make T-shirts, and each year he put the names of all those deceased cowboys on the back of that shirt. Well, he was the one that I got with that helped me put the information together to get my dad inducted into the Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame up in Fort Worth. Yeah, Harold Cash. Well, I wished that I wanted him here where he could kind of explain the side of this issue that he deals with, because he get more in depth of keeping up with the guys that was inducted into other Cowboy Hall of Fames and that rode in New York Madison Square Garden, like Tony Travis and Murders Dykeman and these guys were they're not old cowboys, and they are rodeo cowboys. There's a difference between a rodeo cowboy and a ranch cowboy.
Yes, there is.
You see, so if you are a rodeo cowboy, you need to have a sponsor like Wrangler Blue Jeans or Budweiser or Cavender Boots, and so they can pay for your travel to go from one rodeo to the next, because it's all about how much money you win. So if you don't have money already, and most cowboys do not, so to own a good horse, to own trailers and trucks and entry fees and hotel accommodations and all this stuff, you have to have money behind you. So Hollywood really promoted people like Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and John Wayne as cowboys, but the word cowboy came from a black man that was called a boy working out on a ranch taking care of the cows, and they called him a cowboy. That's where it all came from. Now everybody wants to be a cowboy. You know, but everything has its reason and explanations behind why it's like it is. And I'm just here to kind of get the record straight for my daddy, for sure. Because if he did not know and have the experience and wisdom that he learned out on these ranches, seeing to it that those jobs were done, he wouldn't have known how to train someone else how to do those things. I've seen my dad buy 15, 20 head of horse at one time for Mr. Cecil and bring them there to the place and buck them out, and those that quit bucking, we break them and train them and sell them back to Mr. Cecil. And he would never take money. My dad would always trade back for cows.
Yeah.
And he would then pasture with people like Mr. Owen and Mr. Randolph that had land where he didn't have to lease land. And there's times he's owned over 100 head of cattle, and never owned the property. We only had 5 acres of land over there in Cheek, So it's a way to do everything, and it's about getting along with people and knowing how to work with people and get a good understanding and understand business.
How has Cowboy changed since those days?
An awful lot. An awful lot.
Really?
This man can tell you what you have to do in order to be a cowboy. And it's not just owning land. It's just like nowadays, the price of cattle is high now because there is a shortage of cattle in the United States. The people that really make money off of cattle are the people that butcher the cattle, not the people that actually raise the cattle. So, your husband owned, what's your name again? They own a sale barn, 3 sale barns.
Sure, yeah.
All right, now, when a rancher raise a cow and get 1 calf a year off the mama, at the end of the year, that calf is going to have to be weighing about 700 or 800 pounds in order to be able to pay for the feeding of the mother all during the winter months. And how you make money off of land nowadays is through agricultural tax exemption, how you may lease it back to the federal government to not do anything with it. A lot of times, we were just talking about how Exxon Mobil is leasing poor rights below the mineral rights on land, so that the federal government, like the oil companies, instead of letting CO2 gas go into the atmosphere, they have to pipe it underground. Okay? The Broussard family, that's a Joe Broussard, that's a big family of people there in Jefferson County. They just leased 13,000 acres to Exxon Mobil in order to store CO2 gas.
Store.
Right. It's right near the Cheek community. So Exxon Mobil has come in and talked with our community about how we can benefit from them being so close to residential property. Well, we looked into it through the EPA and the Railroad Commission that give out the permit in order to store CO2 gas underground. They have never given out a permit anywhere in the state of Texas to store CO2 gas yet. Okay? So we've been, since June of last year, our community has formed a nonprofit corporation, and we have had to get organized well enough so that we can benefit on how Exxon Mobil is going to help benefit our community from being so close to where they're putting this underground storage of CO2 gas.
Is there a benefit?
Well, the Broussard family is getting $13 million for 13,000 acres of land.
That's their
For every
benefit.
1,000 acres of land, they get $1 million. Okay, and that's just for a 5-year lease. The Bruce Pipkins Ranch here near the Winnie area down
Big
in
Hill.
here, Big Hill, that's out in the middle of nowhere. So you're not around residential people. So they're not having to go through the camaraderie like what Exxon Mobil is in the Cheek area. So Exxon Mobil formed got 14 people from our community in order to meet with us with a group of people that understand what's going on and we don't, where we can better understand it, and asking us for the things that we feel as if we would need as a community that we don't have right now, such as better lighting, street lights and stuff like this, widening out Boyt Road and the main roads there in Cheek, putting in sewer to everybody's house. We applied for a rural community grant out there in Cheek, and we got $1,500,000 the first time around in order to be able to put sewer in our community. The General Land Office has built about 65 new homes for individuals that maybe got their homes torn up because of a hurricane and didn't have homeowners insurance. And if you could meet the criteria that the General Land Office come up with in order to do this through the Regional Planning Commission, they will build you a brand new house and it would cost you nothing. And it's been about 55 or 60 homes built out there like that. And this is the only community in the state of Texas that have received a rural community grant and got it.
Yeah, they're doing good roads and sewage and the whole.
All the infrastructure.
These are things that ExxonMobil is going to do for our community because of them wanting to put in that CO2 gas like that.
Yeah.
So we are on, I think, the last stages of them actually getting this permit. And it seems like since the federal government has gone along with doing this, the EPA and the Railroad Commission has been revamped since President Trump is now the president. And we've had law firms to come and speak with our community in order to help us understand how to combat this, because no one out there wants this to happen, because this is such a new technology until it's a possibility that CO2 gas can come up. And the 13,000 acres that the Broussards own right now, they're raising rice and cattle. And from what the EPA is saying is that CO2 gas, it would take it 1,000 years for it to harden and turn to a solid where you wouldn't have to worry with that seepage. And then there's a refinery being built now on Highway 69 between Beaumont and Port Arthur called Lindy. They're building this plant there, and it's costing billions of dollars. And they've had to pipe from there out to Cheek and cross Boyt Ranch, that Dr. Dick Sharon owns that ranch now. He was against them crossing his property, so he filed a lawsuit against them and lost it. And that was through eminent domain.
Yeah. Wow.
So they have bought the right of way from Nederland all the way across Cheek into, like you're going to China on that back China road, in order to be able to put CO2 gas there. And but this is going to happen right now. It's happening in Missouri City. I have a daughter that lives in Missouri City, and they're going through the same problem. The city of Beaumont has leased all under BFI dump in order to put CO2 gas under there. Is
Cheek an incorporated city? Are y'all
No,
incorporated? Y'all are just a community.
We're just a community. We are in what they call extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Okay.
They drew a protractor from 5 miles from the city limits of Beaumont, and Cheek falls within that 5 miles.
Okay.
So we're in ETJ is what they call it.
Okay.
So we cannot incorporate.
Right.
So it's just a lot of things that you have to know nowadays. And ranchers,
It's not just raising cattle.
no. Most ranchers are losing their ranches.
Yeah.
So are more CO2 places going to happen?
From Corpus all the way to Mississippi, all along the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
Everywhere where oil has been found.
So this is a byproduct of the oil
production?
Yes,
CO2 is?
right. CO2 gas come from the production of oil
Before they started storing it, where to go?
into the atmosphere. That's the smoke that comes from the
That's what they're
refineries and
burning
all.
off?
Right.
It's not burning off,
Yeah.
it's just going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not burning off, it's going up.
So where's it go when it goes up?
You don't see it.
Into the atmosphere. That's what's causing the climate changes that we're
The
having.
CO2?
Yes. That's why they want to put it underground, worldwide. And see,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
ExxonMobil is the largest corporation in the world. They have a lot of political clout. From working on Leadership Texas with George Bush, my job for 8 years was to see to it that the people that gave millions of dollars to these candidates, that these promises are kept. So democracy is about buying it.
Yes.
If you don't give to a political candidate, you don't get any help from that candidate
Right.
once he get elected.
Right.
You buy power.
Yeah.
And this is what wealthy people, this is what you're seeing on TV when you watching the news and you talking about how Donald Trump got elected. Look at the billions of dollars and how Elon Musk gave to him like that to have the power that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Money buys power.
You have an interesting foray into politics as a young man. Good training, huh? Woo! Yeah, it's interesting.
So there's no recourse.
No. This is going to happen. The lawyers that are hired to fight them are bought out by ExxonMobil.
Okay.
It's like getting a court-appointed attorney if you commit an offense. I own a bail bonding company too, and I've gotten a lot of people out of jail. And a lot of my clients, I would sit and listen to their cases when they go to court. And if you go to jail and you get a court-appointed attorney, 98% of my clients wind up going to prison. A court-appointed attorney is paid for by the county. So they're going to get the same amount of money regardless whether they win or lose your case. So they don't put forth the effort that it's going to take in order for you to win. It just don't work that way.
Gotta have a good lawyer.
You got to have a good lawyer. You got to pay for a good lawyer.
That's what you pay for it, yeah. Well, let me ask you, what's very interesting is you said that to date, and I've heard this before, not one permit. Not
Have
a
been
single
given in the
permit
whole
has
state
been
of Texas.
issued
That's
by the
right.
state of Texas.
That's right.
Why?
Because it's such a new technology in Texas now, but there have been permits given in Louisiana and in Mississippi,
Right.
and they've had problems there. When they running those pipelines from where it's coming from to where it's going, they have dug 3 sample wells on the Broussard property. The geologists that saw this being done, for every foot they would go down, they would bring up what they would find. Like if they would go through granite rock, if they go through sand, if they go through water tables or whatever, they would know how. And this going down 2 miles underground. I have 180 hours in real estate law, real estate finance, and property management, industrial appraising, the principles of real estate law. One of the things in real estate law was if you own your surface rights and you wanted to sell it and you own the mineral rights beneath it, you could keep your mineral rights and sell your surface rights.
Absolutely.
And if you don't state it in your real estate contract, the mineral rights go with the surface.
Yeah.
If you don't state it. This is how L.D. Fontenot wound up buying land from the Broussards and wound up owning the mineral rights and became wealthy as he was. Well, now what has happened in Jefferson County, Mike Doge has been selling lots in Diamond D estates. What he didn't know at the time was that he owned the mineral rights, he did, but he didn't know about the poor rights, which is beneath the mineral rights, because in real estate law that was no indication or no talk about the poor rights where CO2 gas is going to.
Poor, P-O-O-R?
P-O-R-E.
P-O-U-R-E. Poor rights is what they're calling that.
P-O-U-R-E.
And this is where the CO2 gas goes and stays there, and it's not supposed to come up. From what ExxonMobil is saying, from what the EPA is saying, and the Railroad Commission is saying, that through the technologies that they've been researching and all, that ExxonMobil says they can be able to keep the CO2 gas where it won't harm the people above it. Well, we differ with that.
Okay, so that's why the state of Texas has yet to
Issue the
a
permit. That's right.
So in reality, then, ExxonMobil, Occidental, they have spent millions, tens of millions of dollars, leasing land around here.
Right.
They're just wasting their money.
No. No, because they're not going to get the fight if there's not people around. Just like over on Bruce Pipkin's land, they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that's not have been any opposition. We have researched and found where we need to do what we're doing, because once they actually do get the permit, they are obligated to us financially. And if we don't have it on record that we was in opposition to these things and they listen to us, this is why ExxonMobil is talking with us like they're doing. They didn't think that we were going to be intelligent enough to do what we're doing.
I understand.
And they felt like they can come in there and buy out that community real cheap. And they're finding out that it's different. The same way over in Diamond D. A lot of those people that live out there have invested their 401k and IRA monies in building new homes out there, homes running over $1 million and all, and they were looking for that to be an investment for them. Some of these people work for ExxonMobil. Some of them are geologists, some of them are scientists and all this, and they've been coming to our meetings.
I love it.
So we have a record of all of this. And this is what the EPA has told to us is make sure you keep a record of everything.
Absolutely. Documentation.
That's right. So it's about money.
Always. And it's always about money.
So what can be done? What's the next move? What
Meet and talk and get a good, clear understanding and get you a plan. Most communities don't have a community association, a neighborhood association. They don't sit down and talk about issues that could happen to the entire community that is going to affect everybody.
Right.
Most people don't do that.
Not till there's a problem.
Not until there's a problem. Our community wouldn't have got as learned as we are about it had we not been meeting. I start having the meetings right there on my property, right there at my place. And now the Catholic Church, they allow us to meet there too, because sometimes it's hot, and my place don't have air conditioning and all this like that now. Sometimes we meet over at the Precinct 4 Service Center where the County Commissioner Bo Alford is there. Well, the Commissioner's Court is the voice for the county. The county judge and the 4 county commissioners is the voice for the county. When ExxonMobil approached our community, they had to get approval by way of the Commissioner's Court. So if you don't know how to get on the Commissioner's Court's agenda and speak before the county commissioners and let them know that you are opposed to this, they feel like
Why not?
if you don't complain, they feel like you're satisfied.
No, it's very true. What the greasy, the noisy wheel gets the grease.
Squeaky.
Yeah.
The squeaky wheel
Squeaky
gets the
gets the grease, yeah.
This was happening to a lot of ranch lands.
Oh, yes.
People that do not understand the politics of owning land. When you have bills to pay, when you have duties, when you don't understand the legal ramifications of what you own, how to keep it,
How
you
to
lose
keep
it.
Yeah.
Even little children know how to make money. Most people don't know how to keep money.
It's true. It's true.
How to go here? Raise your hand.
So what have you determined the bad effects if the CO2 gas is stored and it starts leaking up? What's it going to do?
It could kill somebody.
Yeah.
It could
Yes.
poison the water tables.
Okay.
It could poison the cattle that's above. It's a lot of harm that it can cause.
There's CO2 platforms on our way to High Island.
I wouldn't doubt it.
There are.
What's the CO2 platform? What's it look like? I've never seen the CO2 platform.
Well, you see,
It's a
they've been putting CO2 gas underground. If you have a low producing oil well, say if it had been producing 100 barrels a day, and it started doing 50 barrels a day, they can go in and inject CO2 gas
Yes.
and make it produce
Yes.
back again.
Right.
But that's not permanent.
True.
See, this word permanent means that they applying pressure to it. And when you apply pressure, it spreads. And they don't know where it's going.
It's true.
They don't know exactly where it's going. Now, some geologists are saying that they can control where the CO2 gas would go. But if it's underground, you can't see it. And who is going to monitor that and say whether or not it's going up under your property or not?
I dig a hole as big a hole as a animal dig.
So this is why ExxonMobil, Chevron, and all these large companies that's processing oil.
There's a big CO2 thing on the way to High Island. Huge.
I wouldn't doubt it. If you don't know, it's pipelines all over Texas. There's pipelines running everywhere. But this CO2 is a different thing. It's not like running oil through a pipeline. It's not
It's
like
gas.
natural gas. Or this is a different thing. And then too, what we're finding and what they're talking about is there are oil wells that were dug years ago, and back then they didn't have the regulations that they have now. So if you have an oil company that don't go through the proper permit and they go in there and drill a well and
Right.
and then they sell the land when it stopped producing, and then you put CO2 gas under there, and you have a uncapped oil well underground there.
True.
That CO2 gas got a route to come back up.
That CO2 place is past y'all's house.
Are all these pipelines underground, like you said, they're a mile underground? Or
Well,
just under-
no. This pipeline that's running from Needland all the way is just 6 feet underground,
6 feet.
and
A digger could hit that.
yes, so it's a lot of different things that we are finding out that most people are not discussing because it's such a new technology and people are unaware. It's just like a person being aware of artificial intelligence.
Which
You know.
is scary.
Yeah.
Which is real scary. There's a huge issue going on regarding the CO2. Is that if a landowner sells their land, they the surface, but they keep the minerals, And if, like, an Exxon comes and leases the land and the surface owner, gets it, that the mineral owners don't get anything. They're left out.
That's right.
Because
But
you
now,
cannot drill a
but
well.
now, if a person bought surface rights
Mhm.
and someone else owned the mineral rights,
Mhm.
if they didn't state when they were selling the surface rights that they would keep the poor rights, the person that owns the surface rights owns the poor rights, even though someone else owned the mineral rights.
See, this is the first time I've heard of the poor rights. P-O-U-R-E. I'm gonna look into that. Yeah, that's very interesting.
So this is what ExxonMobil is doing, is leasing poor rights from the residents in the Cheek area that don't own, most people don't own their mineral rights.
Yeah.
But everybody that didn't state when they were selling their surface rights, the person that owned the surface rights owned the poor rights, even though someone else owned the mineral rights.
Oh my God.
Just like now, Lloyd them owned Mr. Elmer's mineral rights that Doc Sharon owns the surface rights. Okay? Now, you all still own the poor rights beneath the mineral rights. If you don't know this, ExxonMobil comes through there making these deals like they're doing. Doc Sharon can't make that money that y'all supposed to be getting, but you supposed to know about that. Y'all supposed to know about that.
So how do you take care of that? If you have mineral rights,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what do you do? Oh, you're a
You-
lawyer, right?
No,
I mean, you're a legal, educated in that. Yes, okay, for the land. Okay, what do you do? Who do you go to clarify that?
A title company.
A title company?
Oh,
Okay.
really?
We gotta
Trace
reach
your
out.
time. See who goes for it.
So this, if Exxon has come into your area and you have not been approached and you own a large tract of land, you need to look into whether or not they are interested in your poor rights. Because most times they've done their research. They know,
Oh, yeah, they have their lawyers working.
yes.
You still have to own the surface, I paid for it.
But if you own the surface and you own the poor rights too,
Automatically?
automatically.
It's automatic. Oh, I see.
Okay? See, because just like when the McFaddens received that Spanish land grant, they have sold a large tracts of their land to the state to build the prisons.
Yeah.
Just like where DuPont is. If they have kept their, they still, I'm more than certain they still have their poor rights. Most people that are unaware of this still own their poor rights. If they own the surface and they kept their mineral rights, they own their poor rights. But you need to know that for a fact if you're going to get a lease agreement with any of these oil companies. This is where a real estate attorney
Comes in.
Comes in.
A good one, yeah.
someone that understands that level of it.
Yeah.
Now, the attorney that Doc Sharon hired in order to get a better deal than he would have gotten just as a lay individual, he cut the deal for him in order to get the right of way to cross his land. He didn't try to negotiate that with ExxonMobil himself. They had to buy the right of way to get that pipeline from the refinery to the 13,000 acres that the Broussards own, where the sample wells were dug. And what he had what he had was a negotiating tool there, because everybody that get a pipeline across their property don't get the same amount, and they tell the Exxon and these companies like this tell the people that own the land, don't talk this over with your neighbor about what you got.
They'll keep it quiet or we're not signing.
You keep this to yourself. You see, so if you don't know how to negotiate this right, you wind up maybe not getting what your neighbor got that knew how to negotiate.
Absolutely.
What about on the Spinner Top Ranch and Mr. Henderson Ranch? What is that he producing on his ranch, if you're familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that. And when you say Henderson, where are they located?
Right there off in Delvis.
Dr. Henderson? You see, that's B.H. Willis Ranch. That used to be B.H. Willis Ranch.
Okay.
I'm more than certain they've been approached. I'm more than certain those people been approached. If the Broussards, you see, these people in 1897, they built that Beaumont rice dryer, and they would ship rice all over the world. This year, the beginning of this year, they shut that down.
Yep.
Because of the deal that they just made, that $13 million on the land that they've been leasing out to farmers, that they would process rice, but they wouldn't raise rice.
Yep.
So they would lease it out to people that want to raise rice, and that's how they made money with their land.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that now. It's right. So ranchers, cowboys, and all this is like the horse and buggy days. You know, when they made the automobile, when they found about electricity, it made a big change in the whole world. This is what's happening with artificial intelligence. This is what's happening with underground storage of CO2 gas. This is another world all within itself. And the people that are unaware that this is taking place, is not keeping up with current events, you wind up losing your property to someone that understands it better than you do, or understanding the value of what you own better than you do.
That's one of the
Sad but true.
fights that I took on for probably the last 30 years in my Homeland Security capacity was exactly what you're talking about here. So it's always the dilemma of the ranchers and the farmers, where you either got people cutting your barbed wire, or you got people taking your mineral rights or your ore rights or whatever. Those things have never changed. It's the trials and tribulations through the years that progress changes the fight, but it's always a fight, right?
Yeah.
Drought, hurricanes, and all that come into play too. But the danger of all of that is the second part of that equation, and that's we lose our farmland, we lose our cattle ranches, and we depend too much on foreign countries for our food. And I've put for over 30 years proposition after proposition about beef industry, where you go to the store and you buy beef, you have no idea where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ridiculous. As a consumer, you should know, it should be on the label, you should see it. And they won't do anything about it because, as you alluded to very, very well, it's the money. And so people in the back room are getting paid, but we're, it's always a seesaw. We're always fighting these fights.
The Cattlemen's Association doesn't put this out.
They don't have enough money to stand up.
Thank you.
They do not have enough money to stand up against the, and I'll tell you this very truthfully, I always call this the dark side of my life because it really is. And when you see what I've seen and you see how much money, and I crack up laughing at all these politicians on any side. I don't have an affiliation anyway. I don't care. But they always talk about, we don't have the money for that. You know, we don't have the money for that. But if they need it, guess what happens? They find the money for that. Yeah.
Like the
So they got,
like the Learjet back behind the house. Yeah.
there is so much money out there that it's absolutely obscene. And the way you get it is by doing exactly what Preston's doing, and that's being educated, fighting the fight, and getting to them before they get the hook in your mouth.
Right.
Because once they do that, it's over with. You're not going to win. But I commend you for doing that, Preston.
Yes.
That's amazing, man. You're standing up for these folks. That's the most powerful company in the world, and,
Yes, it
and you and
is.
your community need to be commended for that, because that's hard stuff, and it's scary too, because
Very scary.
you stand a lot of other types of retribution that they can lend to you, covertly. And so that's good stuff, but I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's been a fight of mine for a long, long time. And I see the danger from the inside of losing our farm and ranch land. And Red Seagull just put out a little thing. It's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 468 acres a month of prime farm and ranch land that we're losing.
Oh, jeez.
And that all kinds of entities other than people that are going to raise crops and beef.
Yeah.
And so that's a danger, you know, because we're talking about food, we're not talking about cows. And people don't balance that too well. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank
You're doing
you.
a good job. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything I can do to help you, you let me know.
I will. I will.
Preston, can you tell us how your family got in this area? I know a little bit about what you told me, but,
Well-
there's something about a poison well?
Yeah, years ago, what I wrote down here is something that I think is the first cattle that was brought to the United States and to the Americas came into Haiti and the Dominican Republic by the Spaniards in 1500. And before then, cattle came from Africa. 10,000 BC is when the first cattle was first domesticated. 10,000 BC. They came into Spain about 6,000 BC. So the Spaniards, when they came into the Americas, when they sent Columbus here, Columbus came on the Ninta, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and it was just exploring. But in 1493 is when he brought cattle into Haiti. And then they came into Louisiana and Texas in the 1700s. So when the McFaddens received a Spanish land grant in 1831, this was about 250 to 300 years before cattle was brought into the United States. So when they came into the Beaumont area from Canada, and one of the main things that they were fur traders, and the only way you can get a Spanish land grant, you first had to be Catholic. And
Say you were, or at least say you
yeah,
were.
well, you had to be Catholic, because the King of Spain, they were Catholics, and that's the people that was getting these Spanish land grants. And coming into Texas, when Haiti they overthrew the Spaniards and the French in Haiti in 1901. my daddy's grandfather was from Haiti. So when you needed to know anything about cattle, and when they were bringing slaves from Africa into the Americas, into the Caribbeans, and into Brazil, and then down into the United States and all, they wanted people that understood animals. And most of your animals in the world is found in Africa. All your land, and then land was, the Africans already owned Africa. And they already owned the animals there. So it was just all about them providing the labor themselves for their land and their animals. So they domesticated cattle back 10,000, well, it'd be about 15,000 years ago. When cattle was brought to the United States, it was in order to be able to make money off of them and to feed the area. But the Indians were already here. And the Moors had come into the United States from Africa and was already in America before Columbus was.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look into how things were done and how the Europeans, reason why they came to the United States, because they had done polluted all of Europe. All the years that they had spent over there processing and manufacturing and doing things over there like that. This was the new world, and the Canadians and the Aztec Indians in Mexico, because when Cortez came into Mexico, he found nothing but Aztec Indians, and a Mexican is a cross between a Aztec Indian and a Spanish soldier. The men were all fighting when Cortez came into Mexico and left all the women there in the villages, and they the soldiers impregnated all the Indian women, and when the men came, they killed them all, and that was the beginning of the Mexican race. It's a lot of history about how things were done and why things were done like they were, and everybody don't stop and take the time to investigate that and look into that, because it really, if it's not affecting you directly, it really don't matter.
She said to tell her how your family.
Well, when Alfred Francois was my great grandfather that lived in Haiti. He came to Louisiana, and he married a Creole woman, and she was a trying to think what her last name, but she was owned by this family there in St. Landry Parish. I just can't think of the name right off right now, but that's how they came into Louisiana, and he married into there, and then when they freed the slaves, they gave this lady she was the secretary for the plantation, they gave her 480 some odd acres of land, and she had one son. Galveston was his name. Alfred Francois married Frances Galveston, and the way that she received that land was from the people that owned her as a slave. And what happened was that my daddy's grandfather had 13 children, 9 boys and 4 girls, and there was a family by the name of Vidrine that owned a general store in that area, and they would loan monies and give seeds to black farmers around that area, and then when you have at the end of your growing season, when you sell your crop, you would pay the place. Well, they found that Alfred Francois had oil on his land, the Vidrines did, and they poisoned their oil well, and his wife died one day and he died the next, and the 13 children, which was Shine and all of his sisters and brothers and all, they wound up some kind of way coming into Texas, and the family was introduced to the McFaddens, and that's how they were able to do what they did from that point on.
Did they poison the water well or the oil well?
The water well,
Water well, yeah.
poisoned the water well that they drank from, and the mother died one day and the father died the next day.
Do y'all still have that annual rodeo in Cheek?
Not anymore. There are not any rodeos given in Cheek anymore. But that was the beginning of rodeos in Jefferson County.
Yeah.
That was the very beginning of rodeos in
Yeah.
Jefferson County.
Double Bow had a rodeo.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Earl Rivers.
Bobby Jason.
Earl Rivers.
I know Bobby Jason had a rodeo arena there in Double Bow,
Yeah.
and the Rivons.
Yes.
They had a rodeo
Yes.
arena there, and but Osa Jackson and Quentin, which were James Taylor White's sons by a black woman, when he died, he left his bottom land in Double Bow to Osa and Quentin, not knowing that that's where all of his oil was.
That was
And
John Henry Jackson. Not O.C.
what Osa was his son.
Was John
But they were left James Taylor White's land down in Double Bow, and but Taylor White and what's his brother name? Taylor's brother, Bill White. He just recently passed.
Yeah.
When we had that, when she roped off my horse that day, he was there,
Yeah.
and I think about 3 months after that is when he passed. But some way it's said that is the oldest ranch in the state of Texas is White's Ranch.
1819.
first big rancher?
Yeah. So I hope I've been informative enough.
Oh my
and
God.
I don't want to go on and on.
I mean, yes, it's just like, wow.
For sure.
So,
So what are they gonna do with CO2 if they're not gonna put them in these big things like we're seeing down their way? What are they gonna do with it?
This is where they process it and then send it down through the pipeline to store it underground. What they're building on 69,
Yeah.
this the processing plant that all the refineries is this their subcontractor. You see, the federal government gave out grants and tax credits.
Okay.
So ExxonMobil is getting a tax credit for storing CO2 gas, and Lindy is getting a grant for processing it. So, and you know who's paying for that?
we
Us
are.
taxpayers.
And that is a heck of a development they have out there.
But how much
It's
can they
amazing.
store? I mean, they can store it everywhere. Underground?
That's why they're
Well,
using
everywhere
land
where
over.
there was once oil,
To the pocket.
those pockets underground, that's where they're going to store that CO2 gas.
That's a lot of pockets in this area.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Look at how much oil is in Texas, period.
Yes.
God bless Texas.
So the people need to look more into this, what I mentioned to you all. People need to become more informed if they own large tracts of land. They need to understand how now to keep it. Because it's going to lose its value once that goes underground.
Well, Preston, we thank you so much for coming tonight. You've been just a wealth of information, And thank you for sharing with us, giving
You're
them your
welcome.
time.
Where'd you come from?
Beaumont.
Mama, so
Beaumont is just right outside of, Cheek is right outside of Beaumont. We're about 10 miles from Beaumont.
Okay, thank you